The first year, I was married to an Oscar-winning actress. She killed herself, leaving behind a diary and a song she wrote for her first love. Overnight, the entire internet branded me a homewrecker. I had spent our entire youth helping her rise from nothing to stardom, but her diary was filled with nothing but love for him. For me, Melanie Sharp had only hatred. She hated me because I had won the prestigious Crestwood Fellowship for graduate school, while her first love had been forced to study abroad, leaving her behind. After a fiery car crash, I was reborn, waking up on the very day in college that Melanie first asked me out. Ethan, will you be my boyfriend? It was our last big party before graduation. Melanie Sharp had stepped out for a minute, and when she came back in, she walked straight up to me and asked me out. It came out of nowhere, a complete blindside. Our classmates erupted in surprise cheers and started heckling us. Melanie stood in front of me, the corners of her eyes tinged with red. There was no joy on her face, only a bitter resignation. My mind snapped back to the present. Cold sweat dripped down my forehead, the phantom pain of crushing metal still echoing through my bones. I started trembling, an involuntary tremor. This was the woman I had loved for 8 years. The woman who, 1 year into our marriage, took her own life and left me to be torn apart by the whole world, a public crucifixion that ended with my own mangled death. But I was back. Thank God I was back. I had been reborn 8 years in the past. My best friend, seeing me frozen, yanked me to my feet. Ethan, what are you waiting for? You've been in a Melanie forever, man. Forcing down the storm of euphoria and hatred raging inside me, I answered her, my voice cold. No, I'm not interested. A flicker of something new, shock, finally crossed Melanie's stunning face. Seeing her surprise and disbelief, I fought back the revulsion rising in my throat, pushed past my equally stunned friend, and walked out of the private room. Ethan, what the hell was that? You've always, my friend yelled after me, starting to follow. I glanced back. I saw Melanie say something to him, and he stopped, letting me go. I'd only just been reborn today. After Melanie's diary and song were leaked, her crazed fans decided to avenge their fallen idol. They tampered with the brakes on my car. During our 4 years of college, she and Preston Vance were constantly on again, off again. My crush on her was a secret I kept buried, something only my best friend, Aiden, knew about. On this day, at our graduation, I had said yes to her. While I pursue my master's degree, I spent the next 3 years by her side, helping her navigate the brutal landscape of Hollywood, right up until our wedding. After all those years, you'd think even a stone would have warmed up, but on nights filled with passion, she would never kiss me. She remained distant, a cool and beautiful enigma who never once tried to please me. She didn't love me. I always knew that. Our marriage was nothing more than a consolation prize for her, a choice she made after realizing she and Preston were truly over. But I never imagined she hated me. After she died, I read that diary until the pages were soft and worn. Every entry was a testament to her hatred for me. She blamed me for Preston breaking up with her and leaving the country. She believed I had stolen his spot in the Crestwood Fellowship, forcing them apart. From the very beginning, her only reason for getting with me was to manipulate me into giving up the fellowship so Preston could have it. But Preston left anyway. And she blamed me for that, too. She convinced herself that because I was with her, I had scared Preston away. Fina, in this life, I'll stay a million miles away from Melanie Sharp. I won't get dragged into their toxic mess again. Ethan, dude, why'd you just bail on us like that without a word? Aiden and the guys got back to the dorm later that night. He saw me scrolling on my phone and pulled me out onto the balcony. Ethan, Melanie asked you out. Why didn't you say yes? You've been obsessed with her forever. I just looked at him, silent for a long moment. What? Why are you looking at me like that? I shook my head. I already told you. I'm done being her doormat. No way. You've been in love with Melanie for 4 years. You can't just turn it off, Aiden said, his face a mask of disbelief. They're broken up for good. What are you even worried about? I seriously don't get why you turn her down. She's the campus queen. I lowered my gaze, a bitter smile on my lips. Right? For years. But a full 8 years couldn't melt Melanie's heart. What makes him think a second try would be any different? She didn't grant me a single shred of dignity, even in death. She selfishly broadcast her epic, tragic love for another man to the world, letting everyone bear witness to her undying flame for Preston. She never once considered what would happen to me after she was gone. After the online mob came for me, I never had another night of peaceful sleep. I moved multiple times, but my new address was always found by her stalker fans. The harassment was relentless, terrifying packages in the mail, being followed, paint thrown on my door. Those fans would do anything for Melanie, but she never thought about any of that. Her only goal was to join Preston in the afterlife, taking her grand, publicized love with her so they could be tragic lovers in hell. Aiden, is that all you care about? Me getting with her? His eyes darted away, unable to meet my gaze. Of course, man. Look, forget it. I'm gonna go shower. For watching Aiden's hasty retreat, the smile vanished from my face. 2 days before the crash, I had gone to see him. The fact that the online vitriol got so bad was in no small part thanks to Aiden. First, my wife kills herself for her one true love. Then, my best friend gets online to deliberately twist the facts, fanning the flames and sicking the internet mob on me. When I confronted him, his eyes were filled with venom. I hate your guts, you know that. If it weren't for you, that fellowship should have been mine. You're Ethan Shaw, heir to the Shaw Media Group. You can do anything you want. So why the hell did you have to compete with me for it? Aiden, I got you a job at my family's company, and this is how you repay me. He sneered. You think I should be grateful for your pathetic little handouts? I hate rich, arrogant pricks like you who think you're better than everyone. You have no idea what it's like for people like us. Whatever. Your mom has disowned you now, anyway. You brought all this on yourself. From now on, Shaw Media Group is mine. If it wasn't for that final, brutal confrontation, I would have never known my best friend had betrayed me. In my last life, I treated him like a brother. Even after I had a massive falling out with my mom over my decision to be with Melanie, who was still a nobody actress at the time, I swallowed my pride and went to my mother to get Aiden a job at my sister's division after he failed his graduate school entrance exams. When he later developed a crush on my sister, I even played matchmaker, and he betrayed me. He was even instrumental in poisoning my relationship with my mother and sister, driving it to the breaking point. Thank God I was reborn. In this life, Aiden, you won't have my help. Your path is going to be a lot harder. 5 over the next few days, as soon as I wrapped things up at the university, I booked a flight back to New York. I wasn't home for long before my mother, Eleanor, got the call from the butler and rushed back to the estate. Ethan, you're back? I thought you were busy with school and weren't coming home for the summer. My eyes welled up as I shook my head, then let out a choked laugh. Mom, if you don't want me here, I could just go back to campus. Of course not. I couldn't be happier. Alfred, she called out, let Charlotte know that Ethan's home. Tell her to come home early tonight. Eleanor stroked my hair and pulled me into a hug, murmuring about how I'd gotten thinner since she last saw me. For her, last time was just a month ago. For me, it had been over a year. In my past life, my 3 years of grad school were brutal. I rarely returned to New York, instead pouring all my energy into supporting Melanie, accompanying her to endless auditions and industry dinners. The agency she signed with didn't value her. As the son of a New York media mogul, I knew a thing or two about the industry. For a long time, I was more of an agent to her than her actual agent. During one of those industry dinners in New York, we happened to run into a production financed by Shaw Media Group. That night, I took over for Melanie, networking and drinking on her behalf. Eleanor's face was a thundercloud the entire evening. The very next day, my mother, who had always held such high hopes for me, demanded that I break up with Melanie. Her eyes were red with fury. We have this massive company for you to inherit, and you, the heir to Shaw Media Group, are out there schmoozing and playing assistant for some girl. Are you trying to kill me? She's not right for you, Ethan. Come home and take over the family business. Your sister and I can't do this forever. Shaw Media Group was built from the ground up by my mother and father. A few years ago, my dad died in a car accident. My mom and my sister, Charlie, held the company together, protecting it from our predatory relatives who were circling like vultures. My future had been clearly mapped out. I was destined to take over SMG, allowing my mother and sister to finally breathe. But I let myself be blinded by love, giving that bastard Aiden the opening he needed. Later, when Melanie and I got married, She had just become the youngest actress to ever win an Oscar. My mother reluctantly agreed to the wedding. But on that day, I gave the invitations to Aiden to deliver. In the end, no one from the Shaw family showed up. After a few days in New York, I flew back to Northwood for the graduation ceremony and photos. When I got back to campus, I found out that in my absence, the epic romance of Melanie and Preston had reached its dramatic conclusion. Preston had left for England. In my past life, Melanie was furious that Preston had made plans for his future without her, preparing to go abroad and break up with her without a word. So she asked me out, hoping to manipulate me into giving up my fellowship, but ended up pushing Preston even further away. This time, I wasn't involved. Preston didn't even stay for graduation photos before leaving the country. The whole class knew about Melanie asking me out that night. Before the photographer even arrived, people were already coming up to me to talk about it. Dude, Ethan, you have no idea. Everyone was there. Preston said Melanie's family had no money, that they were from different worlds and had no future. The Vance family would never accept a poor girl like her. I mean, it makes sense. Preston's family owns the Vance Hotel Group. Besides being gorgeous, Melanie really isn't in his league. Hey, this is your chance, Ethan. You're not from around here, right? You guys would actually be a good match. Aiden told us you've been crushing on her for 4 years. Now you don't have to worry about Preston anymore. The fact that I was the heir to Shaw Media Group was something I never told anyone in college, except for Aiden. To my classmates, Melanie and I came from similar, modest backgrounds. They had no idea that to a New York media empire like mine, Melanie's background was even less presentable. I shook my head. Please, why would I want someone else's leftovers? Let someone else be her simp. I'm not a garbage disposal. As soon as the words left my mouth, I heard a collective gasp from the students around me. I turned around. Standing just a few feet away was Melanie. Her face was pale, and she looked like she was about to cry. She had obviously heard every word. The group of students scattered, leaving just the two of us. I rubbed my nose, about to walk away. Melanie stepped in front of me, blocking my path. She was wearing a form-fitting white dress, and now her eyes were red-rimmed, making her look fragile and helpless. Those dark eyes, shimmering with unshed tears and a touch of anger, were fixed on me, impossible to ignore. I sighed and met her gaze directly. In my past life, I would have been too shy and flustered to look her in the eye. But after reading her diary, all I felt for Melanie was a cold, hard hatred. My heart would never beat for her again. Ethan, you really don't like me? I don't. There wasn't a hint of hesitation in my voice. Disbelief was written all over her face. Of course, the diary entries she was writing around this time were dripping with arrogance and self-satisfaction. Ethan is so in love with me. After 4 whole years. The second I asked him out, he couldn't say yes fast enough. If I sweet-talk him into giving up his master's program, he'll definitely agree. This simp is pathetic. Does he really think I like him? The moment he drops out of the fellowship, I'm dumping him. Preston, I'm coming for you. Where did a poor guy like Ethan get the money for this bag? It's obviously a fake. Having a broke boyfriend is so embarrassing. This doormat is nothing compared to my Preston. This simp loves me so much, but he won't give up the fellowship for me. Men are all liars. Preston, I miss you so much. Please come back. Even if this simp helps me build my career in Hollywood, I'll never love him. The second you return, I'll cut him off. I had read those diary entries 1,000 times. Every single punctuation mark was seared into my brain. Every time I remembered them, I wanted to vomit. That's impossible. Aiden said you've had a secret crush on me for 4 years. Ethan, are you playing hard to get? I gave her a look like she was an idiot. But Melanie seemed oblivious, scoffing. You can forget it. I will never like you. You can't even compare to one of Preston's fingers. You're insane. I took a deep breath, rolled my eyes, and walked away. 9. After the graduation photos, college was officially over. Everyone went their separate ways, onto their own futures. Some started jobs, some went to grad school, some moved abroad, and some, like me, were starting a fellowship. Without having to be Melanie's workhorse, I was suddenly free, a weight lifted from my shoulders. I had just finished packing in my dorm room and bought my ticket back to New York when Aiden burst in. Ethan, you're leaving so soon? You didn't even wait for me. He saw my packed suitcase and the flight confirmation on my phone screen. Aiden looked stunned. Ethan, you're going back to New York now? I gave a non-committal shrug, but he sounded almost accusatory. Why are you leaving so fast? You promised you'd hang out with me for a few days. And you said you'd help me find a job. I was silent for a moment. He was right. In my past life, we had made those plans. At school, Aiden was one of the few who knew about my family's background. He had accidentally seen me video chatting with my mom once. At first, he thought I was being kept by some rich older woman, his jaw dropping so low he could have swallowed an egg. After he found out I was the heir to a New York media empire, he made a point of getting close to me. He didn't get into the fellowship and didn't want to struggle through a regular master's program. He wanted my help. I was soft-hearted, so I agreed. Ethan, seeing me zoned out, Aiden's expression shifted slightly. I snapped back to reality, a half smile on my face. Aiden, you're the one who posted that stuff on the school forum, right? I pulled up a popular thread and held my phone out to him. It was posted by a new account. While the post was framed as gossip about Melanie and Preston, my name was woven throughout, with every other sentence mentioning my 4-year unrequited crush on Melanie. The thread was blowing up. Everyone pitted Melanie for being dumped and mocked me for being a pathetic backup plan simp. Hey, Ethan, let me explain. I just wanted Melanie to know how you really felt. You've liked her for so long, and as your best friend, I wanted to see you get the girl. I let out a cold laugh and kicked him away from me. You know exactly what you were thinking. I don't want to make this ugly, so watch yourself from now on. As for a job, you're a capable guy with 2 hands and 2 feet. I'm sure you can find one on your own. With that, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out of the dorm. A moment later, I heard the sound of something shattering against the wall, followed by Aiden's furious cursing. 10. In this new life, the people I felt I owed the most were my family. After getting home, I took matters into my own hands and forced my mother, Eleanor, to take a vacation. We hiked mountains, saw waterfalls, ran through grasslands, and even crossed the desert. The afternoon we landed back in New York, we ran into 2 of my college classmates, Jeff and Chris, right outside the airport. They saw me, and their expressions turned bizarre. After a long, awkward pause, they finally managed a stiff hello. Something fell off, so I asked what was up. Jeff cleared his throat, looking embarrassed. Ethan, is it true? You're being kept by a sugar mama. What? I was completely baffled. The 2 of them exchanged a look before explaining. Apparently, during the month I was traveling, a rumor had been spreading like wildfire back at school. Everyone was saying that after being rejected by Melanie, I had become so disheartened that I'd let some middle-aged rich woman take me as her boy toy. There were even photos circulating as proof, making the whole story seem credible. Worse, another rumor started that my spot in the Crestwood Fellowship had been bought for me. Their eyes darted towards Eleanor, who was climbing into a Rolls-Royce, which only seemed to confirm their suspicions. Ethan, you're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. You have to respect yourself. You can't just throw away your for fellowship. She's old enough to be your mother. You're debasing yourself. The university has launched an investigation into the fellowship. If they find any irregularities, your spot will be given to someone else. Your parents will find out. This was a huge mistake, man. It's not worth it. I stood there, stunned, for what felt like an eternity. It wasn't until Eleanor called my name, Ethan, that I snapped out of it. Is there any chance, I said with a sigh, that's just my mom? What? Ethan, your family isn't poor? You're a rich kid? They stared at me in disbelief. I gritted my teeth and asked one last question. Is my fellowship spot going to be given to Aiden Walsh? 11 once in the car, Eleanor saw my grim expression and asked what was wrong. When she heard I was being smeared at school with sugar mama rumors, she exploded. She was ready to turn the car around, fly back to Northwood, and personally teach whoever was bullying her son a lesson. It took a lot of convincing to calm her down. In the end, I didn't even make it home. I turned right back around and headed for the airport. My mother's executive assistant, Mr. Hayes, came with me. Eleanor couldn't get away, so she lent him to me. Since it was a last-minute flight back to Northwood, the only seat available was in first class. Mr. Hayes and I had to sit separately. As I took my seat, the woman next to me opened her eyes and glanced at me. I murmured an apology and took the chance to look at her. She had voluminous, wavy dark hair and was dressed in a tailored black blazer and skirt. Her long legs were crossed elegantly, and a captivating fragrance emanated from her. She gave a slight nod, her cool expression shifting for a moment as she continued to stare at me. I shifted uncomfortably. When she didn't look away, I finally asked, "Excuse me, do we know each other?" The woman toyed with a lock of her hair, her red lips brushing past my cheek as she leaned in. "You don't remember me? Miss, isn't a line like that a little cliché?" She froze, a flicker of hurt crossing her beautiful face. I paused, studying her face, trying to place where I'd seen her before. "You little bratty shadow. You forget all about me after a few years." She was half annoyed, half amused. My mind clicked, and a wave of delighted surprise hit me. "Sophia Chun? You're Sophie? You're back in the States. You jerk. You promised you were going to marry me, and then you forget who I am." Sophie's tone was teasing, but with an undercurrent of genuine complaint, her cheeks flushing a light pink. 12, yes, fate is a strange and wonderful thing. After not seeing each other for years, Sophie and I had been reunited on a plane. Sophie Chun, my sister's classmate, our neighbor, and a permanent fixture at our dinner table. We had grown up together, a whirlwind of bickering and laughter. With Eleanor always busy with work, I spent my childhood attached to my sister's hip. Wherever Charlie went, I went. That's how I earned the nickname Shadow from Sophie. In the years after my father's death, my sister and I spent most of our time at her family's house. In other words, Sophie and I were childhood sweethearts. Back then, Sophie was short for her age and often got bullied for it, kids calling her shrimp. I was the one who always stood up for her, chasing off the bullies. The whole marrying her thing came about because some kid told her she was so short she'd never get a husband. Sophie was crying while stuffing snacks into my mouth. In a moment of panic, I blurted out, "Sophie, if no one else marries you, I'll marry you. You'll never be unwanted." Then, when we were 15, her family moved abroad. We hadn't kept in close touch over the years. I never expected to see her again like this. The little shrimp from back then had certainly. My gaze drifted over Sophie's long legs before I quickly looked away, taking off my jacket and placing it over her lap. In my past life, I had died without ever seeing Sophie again. It seemed that in the grand scheme of things, my rebirth had changed more than just my own fate. Sophie glanced at me, her voice laced with a playful pout. "What, got a girlfriend now, you jerk?" The tone was inexplicably sour and resentful. I shook my head, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw her press her lips together, the corners twitching into a slight smile. My brow furrowed, and I quickly changed the subject. "Sophie, when did you get back? Why didn't you let us know? Charlie and I would have loved to throw you a welcome home party. I've been back for a few days. I was going to contact you after I finished up some work, but who knew?" Sophie's gaze was intense, a smile playing on her lips, as if she could melt me with her eyes alone. A jolt went through me as a thought flashed in my mind. Sophie seemed not to notice my evasion, smiling as she continued. "A friend asked me to give a guest lecture at Northwood University." "What about you, Ethan? What are you going back to Northwood for?" The joy of reuniting with a childhood friend was instantly soured. My face fell, a grim look in my eyes. "Sophie, I just graduated from Northwood, but I'm going back to take care of something. Some people, when you let them off the hook, just don't know when to quit. They're asking for it." Seeing my dark expression, Sophie didn't press further. For the next hour, we didn't talk much, and I unknowingly drifted off to sleep. When I opened my eyes again, Sophie was asleep on my shoulder, her wavy hair brushing against me, her captivating scent filling the air. I was stunned. I couldn't believe I had managed to sleep so soundly on a plane. Ever since I was reborn, my sleep had been restless. I was terrified that this was all just a dream. Terrified that I would wake up and nothing would have changed, that I'd be back in the middle of that public crucifixion, living like a rat, only daring to move through the shadows. "Ethan, sorry, did I crush you?" Sophie stuck out her tongue, her face blushing as she looked at me sheepishly. After we left the airport, Sophie didn't come with us. We exchanged numbers, and then Mr. Hayes and I headed straight for Northwood University. Inside the dean's office at Northwood, a sharp voice carried out from within. "Dean Williams, a student with such loose morals and a corrupt character, must be expelled. If we don't, what kind of example does that set for the other students? This kind of behavior has to be stamped out at the source." I paused at the door, a cold smile touching my lips. If it wasn't my least favorite person, Dr. Peterson. Peterson's son was also a student at Northwood. My grades were always top of the class, meaning I swept up the scholarships every year. There were only so many awards to go around in our department, and his son was constantly overshadowed by me. It was a blow to his pride, and since he couldn't do anything about it officially, he resorted to petty, underhanded tricks to make my life difficult. Now that I'd had my downfall, he was probably the happiest person on campus, aside from Aiden. Bang! I shoved the door to the dean's office open. The two men inside spun around, startled. When Peterson saw it was me, he jumped to his feet, launching a preemptive attack. Ethan Shaw, do you have any manners at all? Don't you know to knock before entering a professor's office? Dean Williams, get this student out of here. If word of this gets out, Ethan will ruin Northwood's century-old reputation. I shot Peterson a cool glance. Making judgments before the facts are even clear. You're full of surprises, Dr. Peterson. Peterson was practically fuming, his eyes shooting daggers at me. There are pictures, there's evidence. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that you're a kept man is an open and shut case, which means that fellowship spot was likely obtained through improper means. I scoffed but didn't say anything else, instead giving Mr. Hayes a slight nod. Mr. Hayes stepped forward, his expression severe. Dean Williams, the sugar mama rumors that have been circulating at your university have caused significant distress to our Mr. Shaw. Our CEO, Ms. Shaw, is extremely displeased. This matter will not be taken lightly. Our lawyers will be arriving shortly to file lawsuits against all responsible parties. Furthermore, regarding the investigation into Mr. Shaw's fellowship, since the university seems incapable of producing a result and clearing his name, we at the Shaw Group are prepared to conduct our own thorough investigation. If it is found that Mr. Shaw has been wrongly accused, we expect you, Dean Williams, to publicly restore his good name. Seeing Mr. Hayes's formidable demeanor, Dean Williams broke out in a cold sweat. He quickly stood up, asking cautiously, "And the Ms. Shaw you're referring to is?" Eleanor Shaw, chairwoman of the New York-based Shaw Media Group. Dean Williams's eyes went wide. His gaze darted to me, his voice trembling. So Ethan is the heir to Shaw Media Group, Miss Shaw's only son, and the sole future successor to our company. The dean's demeanor instantly transformed. His attitude toward me became one of utmost reverence, and he was completely cooperative with Mr. Hayes's requests. As for Dr. Peterson, he had been frozen in place ever since my true identity was revealed. Then, as if struck by a thought, he suddenly rushed out of the office. By the time we left the dean's office an hour later, all the posts about me on the university forums had been taken down. I had no intention of hiding my identity as the heir to Shaw Media Group any longer. I had Mr. Hayes make it public. All my attempts at being discreet had resulted in this. Better to just lay it all out in the open. If I had to be uncomfortable, I might as well make everyone else uncomfortable too. But Mr. Hayes and I were stopped before we could even leave campus. It was none other than Melanie Sharp, whom I hadn't seen in over a month. 15, is there something you need? Perhaps time does dull all things. Seeing Melanie again after a month, I could look at her with the placid indifference of a stranger. But even so, I would never forget the damage she caused me in my past life. I had loved her deeply. The love was gone, but the hatred could not be forgotten. Ethan, so you really are the heir to Shaw Media Group? I nodded, freely admitting it. In my past life, I never told Melanie about my family. At first, I didn't want to burden her. Later, after my complete fallout with the Shaw family, I just never brought it up. I didn't expect her next words, which were laced with fury. So it was you, wasn't it? It was your doing. Mr. Hayes immediately stepped between us. Miss, I suggest you calm down. If you make a scene, Miss Shaw will not let anyone who disrespects her son get away with it. Melanie was pushed aside by Mr. Hayes, who then turned to me respectfully. Sir, we should be going. I nodded, but after taking a few steps, I stopped. As much as I wanted nothing to do with Melanie ever again, I was curious about what she meant. Melanie, what did you mean by that? Ethan, stop pretending. It had to be you. Why else would Shaw Media Group be on the verge of signing me? Only to back out at the last minute. You pulled some strings, didn't you? Melanie's face was pale, and her usually stunning features were twisted into an ugly, ferocious grimace. I stared at her for a long moment. Looking at her face now, I felt no flutter of my heart, only a growing sense of disgust. This was the face that, in my past life, fans had worshipped as divine, the face that countless men had called their dream girl. It was because of this that when Melanie announced our marriage, the internet had been filled with vitriol for her mysterious, unknown husband. Melanie, I didn't do anything. I never get involved in the company's business. I sighed. In my past life, Melanie chose to go into entertainment partly because of Preston. I hadn't expected her to pursue it again in this life. But it didn't matter anymore. In this life, without me, her path would be much, much harder. 16, after leaving Melanie, I didn't leave campus. I sent Mr. Hayes on his way and went to the university's main auditorium. Before I even stepped inside, I could hear a soft voice amplified by the microphone, like a gentle spring breeze, nurturing and calm. I slipped in and quietly took a seat in the back row. Sophie Chun had a stunning figure and a cool, striking beauty. Even the slightest furrow of her brow sent a ripple of excitement through the male students attending her lecture. After the lecture, she was immediately surrounded by a throng of guys trying to get her number. I leaned against the doorway nearby, waiting quietly. When Sophie saw me, she gave me a subtle lift of her chin. If you have any further questions, you can get in touch with that young man over there. He can collect them and pass them on to me. Sophie gave a nod to a group of disappointed female students, then gracefully made her way through the crowd toward me. Have you been waiting long? I shook my head, joking, not at all. I learned so much from Professor Chen's lecture. Sophie shot me a look, her soft, delicate hand patting my shoulder playfully. Ethan, you're just as mischievous as you were when we were kids. Professor Chun, what's your relationship with Ethan Shaw? Are you too? I had become something of a campus celebrity recently, especially now that my identity was no longer secret. Plenty of people in the auditorium recognized me. Seeing my familiar rapport with Sophie, I could feel countless eyes on me. Ethan and I are. Sophie paused, glancing at me as if it were no big deal. I took the initiative, a playful smile on my face. Professor Chun and I are old friends from childhood. Sophie blinked, a flicker of disappointment crossing her face before it vanished. Acting as if nothing had happened, she led me out of the auditorium. 17, Mr. Hayes truly was my mother's right-hand man. He handled things with an efficiency that was both swift and reassuringly thorough. 2 days later, he came to me with a folder. Sir, we've concluded the investigation. I didn't rush to open the folder, letting out a sigh. It was Aiden, wasn't it? Just handle it as you see fit. Don't go easy on him. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. Not in the last life, and not in this one. Mr. Hayes shook his head. Sir, it wasn't Aiden Walsh. I turned my head, my face a picture of shock. Not Aiden? How is that possible? I'd seen the photos that went viral on the forums. If I remember correctly, they were taken about 6 months ago. I remembered that day clearly. Eleanor was in Northwood on a business trip. She was tied up with work, so she sent Mr. Hayes to pick me up from class. Aiden was with me that day, and the angle of the photos made it obvious that only he could have taken them. Unless... I immediately flipped open the folder. The first page was a report from SMG's PR team, tracing the IP address of the account that first posted the defamatory rumors. I wasn't surprised to see the location was on the Northwood campus. But when I saw Dr. Peterson's name on the second page, I froze. It was both expected and unexpected. Thinking back to how vehemently Peterson had demanded Dean Williams punish me in his office a few days ago, it wasn't a stretch to think it was him. But how did he get those photos? Sir, Dr. Peterson's actions have constituted defamation and have damaged your reputation. With the evidence we currently have, we can proceed with a lawsuit. What are your instructions? While the criminal charges may not be severe enough to result in significant jail time, Ms. Shaw is furious. We can certainly ensure he is publicly disgraced and loses his job. Mr. Hayes' words pull me back from my thoughts. I mulled it over for a long moment. Sue him. Don't hold back. Go by the book. Reborn. I refuse to suffer any injustice. Those who wrong me would pay the price, one by one. Dr. Peterson would be no exception. 2 weeks later, Peterson found me. He was a shadow of the arrogant man from the dean's office. With pressure from Eleanor and a lawsuit hanging over his head, Northwood University had already fired him. His son was now a social pariah on campus. Ethan, I'm begging you, let me go. And my son, please leave my son out of this. It was all me. It has nothing to do with him. Don't ruin his life. I've lost my job. Aren't you satisfied? Show some mercy. Leave a little leeway, for goodness sake. Peterson looked like he had aged 10 years. His hair was a mess, and dark circles shadowed his eyes, a testament to sleepless nights. All his previous arrogance was gone. In front of me, he was like an ant, easily crushed. Dr. Peterson, when you were trying to ruin me, did you ever think this day would come? I kicked him in the face, then expressionlessly planted my foot on his hand, grinding my heel into his fingers. Seeing him hiss in pain, I sneered. Gossip and slander can easily destroy a person. I'm the same age as your son, Dr. Peterson. Why didn't you think to show me a little mercy back then? This is all your own doing. Please, I'm begging you, let me go. Peterson was a mess of tears and snot. His free hand reached for my pant leg. I kicked him away in disgust. What is this filth? Who said you could touch me? Can you even afford to replace these pants? Dr. Peterson. Peterson sobbed, but continued to beg for mercy. After a moment, I spoke slowly. You didn't take those photos yourself, did you? Who gave them to you? Peterson's pleas hitched. I don't know. Someone sent them to my email anonymously. They said you were being kept and hinted that your fellowship was. That's why I laughed coldly. Getting played and still helping them count the money. You're even dumber than I thought, Dr. Peterson. Peterson scrambled towards me, his expression wild and vicious. Who was it? Who was it that wanted to ruin me? A glint of calculation flashed in my eyes. Why not sit back and watch them destroy each other? 19 after that, I never saw Dr. Peterson again. I only heard that he was sentenced to a few years in prison for aggravated assault. As for Aiden, rumor had it that his leg was stabbed through with a knife. He would be a cripple for the rest of his life, dependent on a cane. A few of his closer friends visited him a couple of times, but then all news of Aiden vanished. No one knew if he was still in Northwood or had gone somewhere else. I was quite satisfied with how things turned out. Peterson paid the price for his actions, and so did Aiden. Most importantly, with Aiden now disabled, it was highly unlikely he would ever cross paths with my sister as he did in our past life. In that life, I had brought Aiden along to the Shaw Media Group's annual gala to help promote Melanie's career. Somehow, he and my sister, Charlie, ended up having a one-night stand. After that night, Aiden claimed he had fallen for my sister and wanted to take responsibility. My heart softened, thinking about how hard things had been for Charlie over the years, and feeling that I knew Aiden well enough, I decided to play matchmaker. But the bastard had ulterior motives, and I was the one who let the wolf into the house. Even now, Reborn, when I think about the stupid things I did in my past life, I want to slap myself. But it's okay now. None of that will happen. With everything settled, September quietly arrived. I was ready to start my new life. However, a week into the new semester, I froze when I saw a familiar figure walk in behind my graduate advisor. Sophie Chun? What is she doing here? After that day on the plane, Sophie had said she would be in Northwood for a couple of days. But she ended up leaving for a trip abroad the very next day on urgent business. We hadn't been in much contact over the summer. I had no idea she had come back so quietly. I ignored the playful wink she sent my way and turned my head. After our advisor introduced Sophie as a visiting professor, he dismissed us. Two of my classmates wanted to grab lunch, but before I could answer them, footsteps approached from behind. Ethan, my classmate stopped, their faces flushing as they greeted Sophie. Ethan, we'll get lunch some other time. We'll head out first. They gave me a knowing look and quickly abandoned me. I grumbled. Someone comes back without telling her old friend, and then just shows up at Northwood out of the blue. Sophie's expression changed, something flashing across her face before it was gone, replaced by her usual composure. My bad. Ethan, I wanted to surprise you. How about I treat you to a nice meal as an apology? 20 over dinner, I learned that Sophie had always planned to move back to the States to work. Her recent trip was because her mother had fallen ill, and she had to rush back. After our meal, as Sophie went to pay the bill, I watched her back, lost in thought. With Sophie's accomplishments, she could have had her pick of prestigious institutions. Yet, she chose Northwood, which wasn't the most obvious fit for her. The reason was self-evident. What are you thinking about? I was so deep in thought, my brow furrowed, that I didn't notice Sophie had returned. She was smiling gently at me, her long fingers waving in front of my face. A strand of her hair brushed my nose, tickling me. My heart skipped a beat, but I just shook my head. For the next few weeks, whenever Sophie was on campus to teach, she would pull me out to do something under the pretext of having me show her around the city. It felt like we had slipped back into our old, easy rhythm. When the week-long Columbus Day break arrived, we went back to New York together. My sister and I gathered our circle of friends and threw Sophie a proper welcome-home party to celebrate her return. Since being reborn, I rarely drank. At this time of my past life, besides my studies, I was constantly accompanying Melanie to industry parties. I often drank heavily for her sake. Coupled with frequently skipping meals due to my busy schedule, my stomach was a wreck. At a crucial dinner that would decide her next big role, right before our wedding, I ended up drinking myself into the hospital with a bleeding ulcer. This time, perhaps because I was happy to have escaped my tragic past, or maybe for other reasons, I had quite a bit to drink. As the party wound down, I was lounging on the sofa with my eyes closed. I saw my sister showing guests out, then closed my eyes again. "Ethan, your phone is ringing." I heard a rustle beside me as Sophie gently nudged my shoulder. I groggily swatted at her hand and pulled her into my arms. "Ethan." The woman in my arms suddenly went quiet. She tried to push me away a couple of times, then settled into my embrace. "This person has called several times. It might be important. Ethan, you should answer it." I cracked my eyes open in annoyance and tossed my phone in her hands. "You get it for me. Who calls this late at night anyway?" Sophie lowered her gaze, looking at the single initial on screen. A flash of coldness crossed her eyes. She answered the phone. Ethan, you like me, right? I'll be your girlfriend. But don't think it's because I actually like you. I have conditions. You have to give me a contract with Shaw Media." Sophie's hand tightened around the phone, the drunken haze in her eyes clearing, replaced by an icy chill. "Ethan's sleeping. Don't call and disturb us again." A shrill shriek came from the other end. "Who is this? What's your relationship with him? You bitch, why are you with Ethan this late at night?" The screaming stopped abruptly, followed by a loud crash from the other end of the line. When I woke up from my drunken stupor, it was nearly noon the next day. I wasn't surprised to see Sophie sitting in our living room when I came downstairs. "Ethan," Sophie called out to me, her expression grave and hesitant. "Morning, Sophie." "Ethan, I answered a call for you last night. The person on the other end got into a car accident mid-call." I paused. The memory was foggy. I was dead drunk last night, but I vaguely remembered asking Sophie to answer my phone. I walked over, unlocked my phone, and went straight to my call history. "Ethan, who is she?" When I answered the phone last night, she got really agitated. "Is she your girlfriend?" Sophie looked at me, her tone laced with a hint of jealousy I couldn't miss. "Just someone unimportant." I quietly deleted the call from my log, my expression turning serious. If this were my past life, when I was still deeply in love with her, I probably would have rushed to her side without a second thought. But now, in this life, we were strangers. I looked up just in time to catch the corners of Sophie's lips turning up in a subtle smile. But sometimes, even when you don't go looking for trouble, trouble finds you. Around noon, Melanie's number called again. Sophie heard the ringtone and glanced at the phone on the table. "Ethan, maybe you should answer it. It seemed like she had something important to tell you last night." "Okay, excuse me for a moment." As I walked away, Sophie froze, clenching her teeth and dropping her fork. She ran her hands through her hair in frustration, muttering under her breath. "He actually answered it. Oh, stupid man. Couldn't you have just answered it in front of me?" I was oblivious to her turmoil. I had already answered the phone, my voice cold. "What is it?" The voice on the other end was demanding. "Ethan, what time is it? I was in a car accident. Why aren't you here taking care of me? And on your way, pick me up something from Aria. I am stardom." My eyes widened, a chill creeping up from the soles of my feet. Aria, the restaurant I used to constantly buy food from for Melanie in my past life. They only served a limited number of tables each day, but to make her happy, I would go to any length to get it for her. In this life, we had never. Could it be? I took a deep breath. "Melanie, if you want food, you can order it. I'm not your errand boy." There was a long silence on the other end, then a burst of impatience. Ethan, what's your problem? Get over to Mount Sinai Hospital now. If you're not here in half an hour, don't blame me for breaking up with you. Melanie, let's get this straight. When were we ever together? Did the car accident scramble your brain? Seriously, you still think I'm your simp? A pained cry suddenly erupted from the other end. I pulled the phone away from my ear. When the screaming stopped, I brought it back. Ethan, you came back too, didn't you? Melanie's voice was hoarse and weak, as if she were being choked and tinged with a palpable fear. A jolt went through me. You're crazy, I said quickly, and hung up the phone. 22, the realization that Melanie, like me, might have been reborn from that car accident left me on edge all day. I looked apologetically at Sophie, who had tried to get my attention at least 5 times while I was lost in thought. Sophie, I'm not feeling well. I think I'm going to head home soon. Sophie pouted but still said, okay, let's go back together. I got a ride home in Sophie's car. We were still on the road when a call came in from Mount Sinai Hospital. Hello, is this Mr. Ethan Shaw? I confirmed, and a slightly weary voice came through the phone. Mr. Shaw, your girlfriend, Melanie Sharp, was in a car accident last night. She just regained consciousness and is out of critical condition. Could you please come to the hospital? There are a few things we need to discuss with you in person. The voice wasn't loud, but Sophie, who was driving, clearly heard it and glanced over at me. She said nothing, her expression unreadable, a dark current flashing in her eyes. Sorry, I'm not Melanie's boyfriend. Mr. Shaw, it's normal for couples to have disagreements. A little fight is one thing, but this is a life-or-death situation. Miss Sharp's condition is a bit complicated. I really advise you to come over. But I tried to refuse again. The nurse cut me off. Miss Sharp was calling your name the whole time she was unconscious. She still cares about you. You know what they say, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Please, just come to the hospital. I lowered my phone with a sigh of resignation. When I looked up, I realized the car was parked on the side of the road. Sophie's beautiful face was etched with unhappiness, and she was looking at me with a mournful expression. At some point, she had unbuckled her seatbelt and was leaning towards me. Ethan, her warm breath washed over my face, her red lips hovering just inches from mine. If I moved forward even slightly, our lips would touch. The curls of her hair brushed against my chest. Ethan, who is that woman? If she's not your girlfriend, why does she keep harassing you? Sophie's lips moved closer, and I could see the raw jealousy in her eyes. Ethan, have you been distracted all day because you were thinking about her? Are you thinking about agreeing to be her boyfriend? I was confused, but before I could say anything else, Sophie let out a frustrated sound and cupped my head, pressing her lips to mine, as if she was terrified of hearing an answer she didn't want to hear. 22. You can't be doing dangerous things like this again, you understand? This is a warning. Next time, it's a ticket. I nodded emphatically, watching the police officer leave before turning to glare at a brightly smiling Sophie. Seeing her shy grin, I felt a phantom ache in my lips. What are you smiling about? Are you happy we got a fine? Ethan, I just gave you my first kiss. You have to take responsibility. Sophie looped her arm through mine, pressing her upper body tightly against me. You kissed me. I should be calling you a pervert. I pulled her into my arms. She didn't struggle, instead pressing closer. I don't care. Ethan, I'm your girlfriend now. She poked my chest, her warm breath fanning across my skin. Fine, you're my girlfriend, all right. Sophie beamed. That's more like it. If you didn't agree, I would have just kept kissing you until you did. You jerk, you stole my first kiss, so you have to be responsible. My eyes widened as I patted her back helplessly. You kissed me. I'm the one who lost out here, Sophie. How can you turn this around on me? Sophie smirked. Well, you could always kiss me back. In the end, I didn't say no to her. Truthfully, in the time we had spent together, with a beautiful woman like her making advances, it was impossible for me not to develop feelings. But the painful memories of my past life still lingered. Once bitten, twice shy. If Sophie hadn't taken that first step, I probably would have remained a coward. After our playful bickering, we got back in the car. Sophie made no effort to hide her displeasure at my decision to go to the hospital. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. I won't go alone. You'll come with me. How about that? Sophie snorted. She didn't say anything, but she silently changed the navigation route to Mount Sinai Hospital. 23 half an hour later, we were standing outside the hospital room. Through the glass panel on the door, we could clearly see Melanie on the bed, clutching her head as if in great pain. What's wrong with her? I frowned, confused. Suddenly, my right hand was squeezed tightly, almost painfully. I turned my head and met Sophie's eyes. She looked jealous, her eyes downcast, the picture of misery. A passing nurse glanced at us, then at Melanie in the room, a look of surprise on her face. She cleared her throat and said in a low voice, "Miss Sharp's head was injured in the accident last night. While it's not life-threatening, a blood clot is putting pressure on her brain, which might affect her nerves and cause memory confusion. Based on our observations, this may already be happening." This didn't shock me. I already knew something far more shocking. Memory loss was nothing. The fact that Melanie, like him, had been reborn was the truly terrifying thing. The thought of that woman being back sent a fresh wave of hatred through me, a hatred I thought I had buried. My body began to tremble uncontrollably. "Ethan." I looked up to see Sophie looking at me with concern. I shook my head and turned to the nurse. "How long until the clot disappears?" The nurse nodded. "Without surgery, it should resolve on its own in about a month." "And with surgery?" "Mr. Shaw, brain surgery is quite risky. The doctor's recommendation is to avoid surgery and opt for conservative treatment, waiting for the clot to dissipate." I shot a cold glance at Melanie inside the room. "Please schedule her for brain surgery. The sooner, the better. Money is not an issue. I'll go pay for it now." I heard Sophie stifle a laugh. "Ik glänzt her." She had a slight smile on her face, looking as if she had just won the lottery. When she saw me looking, she squeezed my fingers, her expression gentle. After the nurse left with a strange look on her face, we entered the room. Hearing the door open, Melanie looked towards us. The next moment, she clutched her forehead and screamed, "Ethan, you cheating bastard. You're two-timing me. My head hurts so much." She shook her head. "Ethan, what are you just standing there for? Get over here and rub my head." I stood my ground, watching her coldly. Sophie, as if afraid I might actually go to her, tightened her grip on my hand and leaned against me. "Melanie, this is my boyfriend. Stop playing dumb. You've lost your chance, understand?" Sophie smiled triumphantly and, right in front of Melanie, planted a loud kiss on my cheek. Melanie shrieked in a furious rage. Ethan, you're my boyfriend. How dare you cheat on me with another woman? I'm not dead yet. Get over here. Ethan, let's go. No point talking to a crazy person." Sophie tugged at my arm, her face a mask of annoyance. 24 The hospital was remarkably efficient. After I kindly paid for Melanie's craniotomy, they scheduled the surgery without another word. Of course, I was very particular about the choice of surgeon. I made sure to kindly select the surgeon with the least experience, a newly board-certified resident. Unfortunately, the surgery was a success. A week after the operation, the hospital called me in. On the hospital bed, Melanie was no longer in a state of helpless rage. She seemed much more lucid. When she saw me enter the room, a complex emotion flickered across her face. "Ethan, did you come back too?" I found a comfortable spot on the sofa and sat down. "Yes, I came back." Melanie's fists clenched, her head dipping slightly. "Even though you died before me, I came back first. This time, we have nothing to do with each other." "Ethan, why? Didn't you love me?" Seeing Melanie's dazed expression, I laughed out loud. "Are you asking why I didn't say yes to you this time? Why I'm not playing the role of your devoted servant anymore?" Melanie flinched, a rare look of embarrassment on her face. I pretended not to notice and continued, "Melanie, you are so damn selfish. You threw everything away to follow your perfect, unattainable love. You just decided to kill yourself, and everyone thought you died for Preston. I was the one who was branded a homewrecker, publicly shamed, and ultimately killed by your fans. What makes you think that I would continue to love you, to sacrifice for you, to be your simp in a second life? I am sorry, Melanie looked genuinely remorseful. "Can you forgive me?" Without a moment's hesitation, I said no. Seeing her pained expression, I suddenly wanted to make her hurt even more. "You were brave enough to die for Preston. Since you've been reborn, You should go and pursue your one true love. Stop bothering me. The sight of you makes me sick. Melanie's eyes lit up, but then I continued. But you just had surgery, so your thoughts are probably still scrambled. Let me give you a friendly reminder. Your first love, Preston, thinks you're too poor and not good enough for him. He's already left the country. Every word was a knife, twisting in Melanie's heart. Oh, and by the way, you owe me $200,000 for the surgery. After that, Melanie never bothered me again. I focused on my studies, spending my free time with Sophie, dating and enjoying a fulfilling, happy life. Before I knew it, it was Christmas Day. I had planned to take Sophie out, but a snowstorm forced us to change our plans and celebrate at home. We chopped vegetables together, preparing for a hot pot dinner on a cold winter's night. Halfway through our meal, Sophie handed me a box, her face shy. Ethan, this isn't the first Christmas we've spent together, but it's the first one that's just ours, that belongs only to us. We'll spend every Christmas together from now on. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I put down the box. As I was about to get up, Sophie pressed me back down and went to open the door. After a moment of silence, I got up, curious. What is it? Who's here? Cease. Cease. What are you doing here? My sister, Charlie, was standing in the doorway, locked in a staring contest with Sophie. Hearing my voice, Charlie clapped her hands together. Well. Christmas, a candlelight dinner, roses. What surprise. Sophia Chun, when did you make a move on my little brother? Don't you know you don't mess around in your own backyard? Charlie pushed past Sophie, shooting her a glare. Move it. I'll deal with you later. A few minutes later, Charlie had joined us at the table. After a few bites, she looked at both of us. Rant, Spiel. What's going on with you two? When did this happen? Sophie opened her mouth to speak, but Charlie silenced her with a look. Ethan, you tell me. Did Sophie force you into this? No. I glanced at a sweating Sophie and shook my head. I then gave Charlie the full story of Sophie and me. After listening, Charlie's expression softened slightly, but she still huffed and pulled Sophie into another room. They were in there for about 15 minutes before they came out. Charlie, Reborn, no one knew how much I wanted to make up for the family ties I'd squandered in my past life. In that life, my blind devotion to Melanie had been a source of conflict with my sister. As a woman, she could see that Melanie didn't truly love me, but I had yelled at her to mind her own business. I still remember the hurt in her eyes. The guilt has stayed with me to this day. I was such an idiot. My sister had always been looking out for me, but I was blinded by a fake love, tried to awaken a soul that was already dead. After Charlie found out about Sophie and me, it was only a matter of time before Eleanor knew. On New Year's Day, we went back to New York for a visit. Compared to my sister's shock and anger, Eleanor was much calmer about our relationship. Or perhaps she was pleased. In her own words, Sophie grew up with you too. We know her family. Ethan, your Aunt Sarah and I are both very happy about this. When she asked when we were getting married, before I could even object, Sophie spoke up for me. Aunt Eleanor, we're not in a rush. Ethan needs to focus on his studies right now. Besides, Charlie's still single. Ethan and I can wait. Charlie, who had been minding her own business, shot Sophie a look for dragging her into it and stuffed a piece of cake in her mouth. Just eat. Always so nosy. 27. Speaking of Charlie, it's worth noting that in this life, without the complication of Aiden, her relationship with her originally loveless fiancé, William Davenport, had taken a different turn. William was proud and independent, but he was a good man from a family of similar standing to ours, and he was incredibly capable. If it weren't for Aiden's interference, he and Charlie would have been a perfect match. In this life, their relationship as strangers engaged to be married had become entangled. Apparently, my sister was at a bar one night for a business meeting and was being harassed. William happened to be there. He'd had a few drinks and didn't recognize her. He stepped in and took care of the troublemakers, and then one thing led to another, and they ended up spending the night together. My sister had been avoiding him ever since, which is why she had been spending so much time in Northwood, and how she had walked in on Sophie and me. It was a game of cat and mouse between them. Who knows when it will end? 28. After New Year's, we returned to Northwood. With finals approaching, my workload became heavier. It was only after a long day of work that I had a moment to rest and check my phone. My gaze turned cold when I saw 3 missed calls from the same number. I sneered as I read the latest text message. Ethan, I've been thinking a lot since I came back, and I know I treated you terribly. I'm in Northwood now. Can I buy you dinner? I deleted the message and started walking off campus. But before I could leave, a figure darted in front of me. Ethan, why didn't you text me back? Why didn't you answer my calls? I looked at Melanie coldly. She was a far cry from her former glamorous self. She looked haggard and worn out. Her family was poor, and her mother needed constant medication. In my past life, she was able to dedicate herself to her career because I took care of everything for her, leaving her with no worries. Now, after struggling in the entertainment industry for half a year, she was only landing occasional extra work on film sets. But extra work wasn't a steady gig, and the meager income couldn't cover her expenses. It was nothing like her past life, where I handled all her problems and even begged my mother's friends to sign her to their agencies. Melanie was beautiful, yes, but Hollywood is full of beautiful people. Among them, she was merely average. Without me, this was as far as she would go. Who do you think you are? You call, and I have to answer? I'm a very busy man. I let out a cold laugh. A look of awkward embarrassment flashed across Melanie's face, but she quickly adopted a subservient tone. I am sorry, Ethan. I was just worried. I was afraid something might have happened to you. What could possibly happen to me? Melanie nodded. You're right. I was overthinking. Ethan, let's go talk over there. I made a reservation at the Crystal Palace Hotel. Sensing my imminent refusal, she quickly added, we haven't had a proper conversation since we last saw each other. And I never got to thank you for arranging the surgery, Ethan. 29 half an hour later, I followed Melanie into the private room she had booked. Looking around, I found the situation amusing. A private room at the Crystal Palace isn't cheap. You're really splurging. Melanie thoughtfully pulled out a chair for me. Ethan, you deserve the best. I was speechless, just offering a small smile. When it came time to order, she tried to let me choose, but I crossed my arms and refused. Ethan, I was so wrong before. You were the one who was best to me. I owe you so much from our past life. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope we don't have to be strangers, okay? We were husband and wife. There's no real hatred between us. I just realized my mistake too late. Melanie, Preston must have really dumped you for good this time, huh? My sudden interjection caused the carefully constructed mask of affection on her face to crack. But she quickly composed herself, looking at me with a pained expression. Ethan, how could you think that of me? We were married once. Even when we died, we were still married. In a way, we still are. Melanie, we were together for years, and I never really knew you. I was living with a stranger. Also, we have nothing to do with each other now. Please stop trying to play the emotional card with me. It won't work. I patted my knees, my appetite suddenly gone. Ethan, where are you going? I'm not eating, and don't come looking for me again. Before I could touch the doorknob, a strong force came from behind, wrapping me in a tight embrace. Melanie, what are you doing? I'm not letting go. I won't let go. Ethan, my biggest regret in my last life was letting you go. Ethan, can we start over? I'll do anything for you to forgive me. Melanie clung to me, her lips frantically kissing the back of my ear, my neck. I shoved her away, but to my surprise, she pushed me down onto the leather sofa. As she started unbuttoning my shirt, I cursed, Melanie, are you insane? We're married. This is our marital duty. At that moment, Melanie was like a rabid lion, her eyes red, filled with a terrifying possessiveness. Ethan, you're mine, you're mine. Let's have a baby, okay? Let's start over. You still love me, right? Melanie, the only reason you're coming to me now is because your career is in the toilet. Without me this time, you're nothing but a failure. I roared the words at her and shoved her to the floor. As if I had stripped away her last shred of dignity, a look of profound humiliation crossed her face. Did you really think your success in your past life was all your own doing? I pressed on, relentless. You know I'm the heir to Shaw Media Group. Do you have any idea how many doors my status opened for you in our past life? Without that, a no-name nobody like you, why would you get all the best roles? Hollywood is full of beautiful women. Who do you think you are? Without me, you are nothing, you understand? No, that's not true. They saw my talent. You're lying. You must be lying. I sneered, continuing to shatter her pathetic self-esteem. And Preston never left because I stole the fellowship. He just didn't want you. You're useless. It was only because I was blind back then that I ever fell for you. You get it? No, no, that's impossible. You're lying, you. Melanie clutched her head in agony. I snorted and was about to turn and leave when she lunged at me, wrapping her arms around me in a crazed embrace. It's okay, I still have you. As long as I have you, as long as I get pregnant with your child, my child will be the heir to Shaw Media Group. The whole company will be mine. I can get back to the top. A commotion came from the doorway. Get that door open now. The door burst open, and a panting Sophie stood in the entrance. Ethan. Melanie, clearly not expecting this turn of events, froze as security guards rushed in and restrained her. You, how did you? Who are you people? Let go. Let me go. I'm calling the police. Sophie rushed into my arms, her eyes red from crying. Ethan, are you okay? I was so scared. I patted her back, comforting her for a long moment before turning my cold gaze to the still struggling and shouting Melanie. Melanie, since you won't behave, you could go spend some time in jail. The Shaw family will make sure you stay there for a long time. He's my husband. My husband. Our love is legal. It's legal. Ethan, save me. Save me. You bitch. Who said you could touch my husband? Bitch. Melanie was dragged away, and soon, only Sophie and I were left in the room. I took a moment to compose myself. Sophie, how did you get here? An embarrassed look flickered across Sophie's face before she pinched my arm. I saw you take a call and then sneak out. And what do you know? A man and a woman all alone. Did I interrupt something? I shook my head, exasperated, and leaned in to kiss her. After the kiss, a thought struck me, and I looked at her, uneasy. What's wrong? Sophie looked at me, a little annoyed. The phone call I made earlier. Did you overhear it? Sophie nodded, her expression unsurprised. Then you know that I was reborn. I know. Sophie looked at me with deep sympathy. So, what exactly happened to you in your past life? Can you tell me? I had no intention of hiding anything from her. I told her everything. When I finished, Sophie was in tears. Ethan, if only I'd come back sooner. It's not your fault. And besides, I have you now, don't I? I tilted my head, thinking, but in my past life, I never saw you again after I turned 15. It was a real surprise when you suddenly came back and we met in this life. Sophie narrowed her eyes. I wasn't supposed to come back so soon. My plan was to return next year. But something just told me to come back now. 31, I had Melanie sent to the police. What I didn't anticipate was that she had another trick up her sleeve. Photos of me and Melanie in a compromising struggle were leaked to the university. The comments section was flooded with trolls, fanning the flames and attacking my relationship with Sophie. The trolls steered the narrative, branding Sophie a predator for being involved with her student. Suddenly, Sophie was at the center of a firestorm. What started on a university forum quickly spread across the internet, catching us completely off guard. Even Dean Williams, under pressure, came to see Sophie, gently suggesting she issue a public statement clarifying that we were not in a relationship. What should we do? Maybe. Sophie silenced me with a fierce kiss. I will not break up with you, not even for show. I came to Northwood for you. If they don't approve, then I'll leave. I finally have you. Our love should be shouted from the rooftops for everyone to see. Sophie's decision was absolute. She acted swiftly, resigning from Northwood University. She then created a public social media account and announced our relationship, sharing our story with the world. We were both attractive, and our beautiful love story, combined with her bold courage, quickly turned the tide of public opinion. We even gained a sizable following online. 32, as for Melanie, her day of reckoning came. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison. While in custody, she kept demanding to see me one last time. I didn't go. In this life, there were no more chances for us. I would never see her again. But what I didn't expect was that Melanie would kill herself again. She had attempted it before, but with the strict supervision in prison, it was nearly impossible. This time, she succeeded. Her suicide note was brought out and, once again, delivered to me. Go on, open it. It was a yellowed piece of paper, the ink slightly blurred. Ethan, I'm dead. I hope in the next life, I can get to you sooner, so you don't have a chance to reject me. I love you, Ethan. I let out a sharp, derisive laugh and fed the paper into a shredder. Melanie was truly delusional. Did she think second chances were as common as groceries? Her love was cheap. I want to know part of it. But even if there were a third life, I would still stay far, far away from her. That bitch. Still trying to steal you away from me. Sophie fumed beside me, her face a mask of jealous anger. I burst out laughing. Relax, relax. She's dead. Who could possibly steal me from you? Then make it official. I want to get married too. She already got to marry you once. Okay, we'll get married. We'll go tomorrow.